Okay, to the students at University of the Free State, I guess this is just another lecture or class for you guys. But on the side of the Share Screen Africa, this is an incredible achievement, a credible day for us. Share Screen Africa is an initiative that is about asking specialist, knowledgeable people from all over the world to share their knowledge with students in Africa. They do freely so, they give their time, they share their knowledge, and by doing that, we disseminate more knowledge about conservation and protection into Africa. And today, this is sort of a test run for us, and we thank all of you for joining us today, and all the trouble for Professor Liesel from us, Lindy Haynes, who organized this. Liesel from us is very much part of Share Screen Africa, part of the initial thinking, and through this initiative, we will now disseminate more conservation organizations to universities, training colleges, and conservation organizations all over Africa. So today we have about 40 students from the University of Free State on the one side, and linked on the other side, you also have members of the South African Shark Conservancy. We thank them for their trouble. Thank you for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us today. As far as I know, Paolo Cortellezzi, Italian, a guy who did his master's, was busy doing his master's in Milan, together with Karina. I think she's the Americano, actually from America. She's the camera lady. They are going to share with you. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate, and I hope you're going to enjoy this lecture as I will enjoy it this afternoon.
Paolo, sorry, it's yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Paolo. As they said, I'm from Italy. I'm doing my master in Milan, and I'm here at the South African Shark Conservancy to do research for my thesis. I've been here for 6 months and I'm leaving tomorrow, so this is my last day here in South Africa, but I will come back. So this is the Shark Club, this is the headquarters of the South African Shark Conservancy. We are an NGO focusing on shark research, but not only sharks, also skates, rays, and chimeras. They're all cartilaginous fish, and their population are decreasing nowadays worldwide due to overfishing, pollution, climate change, and habitat degradation. So now you can follow me inside, and I'll show you around and show you also some sharks. So here we have also some let's see, props. We have, for example, shark fins that have been confiscated from illegal fishing vessels. Shark finning is a huge problem, especially in Asiatic countries. They just cut the fins out of the sharks and they throw them while they are still alive in the water. And this is causing a severe impact on shark populations. Then here we have, for example, some eggs. So not all shark species are lay eggs. Some of them are viviparous, so they give birth to living offspring. But some of them are oviparous, so they lay eggs. So, for example, this is a cat shark egg, and you can see the difference between a skate egg and a chimera egg. So, okay, if you follow me to the lab now, I'll show you around. So to study sharks, we use mainly two methods. So fishing for sharks, we can either go out on the boat with long lines and rod and reels, but also from the shore using hand lines. We also always make sure that we use a circle hook and we remove the barb. So we just, with the pliers, we just squash the barb so it doesn't affect too much the shark. Once we catch the shark, we tag them. So we use this tip. So for example, these are the tag applicators. We have two different sizes. So for shark, they are between 30 and 60 centimeters. We use the so-called tag. So this is the tag. We just put the tag in the applicator and we insert the tag on the right side of the first dorsal fin. There is a very muscular area, so it's non-invasive. It doesn't impact on the swimming, and they don't really feel pain. It's like injection with a syringe for us. So this is the T tag for small sharks, but we also have A tag for bigger sharks. So this is the A tag, so from 60 centimeters and bigger. So we tag them because every tag has a number. And so once we tag the shark, if we recatch them, we know where they moved, and so we can know something about the movement ecology, and also if they grew or not. So we have also information on the growth that are very important, because especially for sharks, rays, and chimeras, there are not a lot of information on their size and the growth with age. Then we also we're collaborating with the University of Stellenbosch, so that are doing genetic analysis, especially on the small cat sharks that are endemic to South Africa. So while we tag them, we also get a pin clip, a very small, let's say 3-4 millimeters clip from the dorsal fin. We put it in ethanol, and then we send it to the University of Stellenbosch for genetic analysis and to see if they hybridize, the species can hybridize, or they are diverging. Another method we use, especially in marine protected areas, are BRAVs. BRAVs stands for Baited Remote Underwater Video System. So the database consists of a rig. On one end, there is the bait to attract shark species, but not only sharks, of course, all the fish species. And on the other hand, now there's not, but there should be a camera. So the camera points toward the bait container, records for 1 hour. 1 hour is the standard time. And so we know the fish assemblages in that area. And this, since it's non-invasive and non-extractive, is very useful in marine protected area to see if the MPA has an effect on fish assemblages. So by doing a field campaign with some sites outside the MPA and some other sites inside, we can see the difference. And so if the MPA actually helps with the conservation and protection of all fish assemblages, but for us, sharks and rays and chimeras. So here we have 3 tanks, the 2 main tanks where we keep sharks or we fish outside on shore, or we catch also snorkeling, because another technique we use is doing snorkeling right outside here in the cat forest. Drop a bait canister, attract shark and grab them with our hands, and then we keep them in the tanks for like 2 weeks, more or less. We tag them, we get the pin clip, and then after 2 weeks we release them. So here in this tank there are 4 different species. They are the main species. We have that one is a Leopard Crusher. So you can see it's called Leopard Crusher because it has a very distinct pattern. It resembles the pattern of a leopard. If you look behind the eye here, this is the spiracle. So these sharks are cat sharks. So they are benthic, staying close to the bottom, and so they use the spiracle to breathe, so that when their mouth is close to the seafloor, they don't sand and mud and other debris don't get in the mouth, damaging the gills. So they use the spiracle. But for example, in fast swimming sharks or open ocean sharks that swim a lot and are living in the open in the water column, this spiracle is absent, and they need to constantly swim to breathe. While these sharks can suck water inside the mouth to breathe. This is the other species. This is the dark shy shark. This is a male, if you can, and these 2 are the claspers. So this is another thing we record when fishing for sharks, is the sex and the maturity. This one is a male, is a mature male. The maturity can vary between, we use maturity 1, 2, or 3. So 1 is immature, 2 is almost mature, and 3 is completely mature. Another shark we have in the tank is strictly related to the dark shy shark. It's called Papader Shy Shark, but you can see the pattern is very specific of this species. It has very small spots and yellow-orange saddles, and it's generally smaller than the dark shy shark. And finally, here we have maybe the most famous is the Pijama Cat Sharks, closely related. This is a big shark, so it's but okay, I think we can leave it in the water because it's okay. And you see, it's called Pijama Shark because of the pattern, the stripe pattern, and is strictly related to the Leopard Cat Shark. And some of them can also hybridize. So Pijama Cat Shark, Leopard Cat Shark can interbreed, giving birth to hybrid species. So in this tank here, we have a Pijama Cat Shark that we are keeping for a trial. So we insert a dummy tag and see the healing process. And so we will keep this shark for around a month, 2 months. Another way we have to study shark movement is using telemetry types. So these are depending on the size of the shark, the dimension of the tag can vary, but these tags are called acoustic tags. They transmit an acoustic signal that is received by a fixed receiver along the South African coastline when the shark is within 800 meters from this receiver. So when the shark is close enough, the receiver will record the ping, and so we know that that day at that hour the shark with that tag has been there, and so we can study the movement along the South African coastline. In this tank, this is the touch tank. We have a bunch of invertebrates, for example, starfish, urchins, and a variety of anemones. But here is where we keep eggs of our cat sharks. So this has been laid probably half an hour ago by one of the sharks in the tank. This is a dark shy shark egg. This is a leopard cat shark egg, and this is a Papader Shy Shark egg. Depending on the species and on the environmental conditions of the water, it will take between 7 and 12 months for them to hatch. And we will keep the babies in the tank, like this baby dark shy shark that doesn't want to be touched. We keep them until they reach 30 centimeters. That is the minimum size for them to be tagged. Oh, there's another one here. There it is. And when they hatch, they are around 10 centimeters in length, and they're very slow growing species, so it will take several months for them to reach 30 centimeters for them to be tagged and then released. Today, this morning, we found a new egg that hatched. It's right here. This is a new entry. This is a baby leopard cat shark. And there it is. It's a male. The claspers are very small. So, of course, it's immature, but it's a male hatched today after being in the tank for approximately 9 months. And in the egg case, as you can see here, barely, depending on the quality of my video, there's the egg sac. So from the egg sac, the shark will start growing. So it will rely on that egg sac for the food. So it will, with time, the egg sac will be absorbed and the shark will grow until big enough for it to go out of the egg case and start living outside of it. Okay, then when we catch a shark, so first of all, every day we get environmental parameters because especially water temperature, air pressure, tide state, and lunar activity, so the percentage of moon illuminated and the moon phase, influence the fish assemblages. So by knowing, by recording these parameters and then recording how many sharks we catch on a specific day, we know what parameters influence the presence of sharks. Then this is the data sheet we use when we catch sharks. So we go out at sea or go out on the rocks. So we fill this data sheet with date, location, catch methods, the names of the anglers, start time and end time. And for each shark, we record the time of capture, the species, the bait used to record the bait preferences. So certain sharks maybe prefer squid, others prefer sardine. So we have also a data on the food preferences, if it has been recaptured or not. So if it has a tag on the dorsal fin, then it's a recapture. We record, of course, the number of the fin clip and the number of the tag. And this is important not to make mistakes. Otherwise, you will record a wrong tag to a different shark and we will mess with the data. And then the morphometric measures are the total length, the precaudal length, and the interdorsal length. So total length is from the tip of the snout to the end of the caudal fin, but sometimes the caudal fin might be damaged or the end might be missing. So we record the precaudal length, that is from the snout to the beginning of the caudal. And finally, the interdorsal length is the space between the two dorsal fins, because most sharks have two dorsal fins, except two species. For example, here in South Africa, the broad-nosed 7-gill shark has just one dorsal fin. So, of course, for that shark, we don't record the interdorsal. Yeah, and for the babies, we also want to record the weight and the morphometric parameters, so total length, precaudal, and interdorsal length. So we know every week how much they grow, and from them we can make estimates on the growth rate of these species. And right now we're doing it for dark shy shark because they're the ones present in the tank. But of course today we started also with the baby leopard shark. It's just 10 grams and is 12 centimeters long. But hopefully, not hopefully, but for sure, if we yeah, that's it.
We're gonna just show you a little bit of shark feeding. So if you can, we're gonna be with Paolo for a minute or two more.
Okay, so we feed the sharks either sardine or squid. So we just chop the sardine, put it in this stick, and then we just feed them by putting the bait right in front of the head. Sometimes they're not so hungry because the water temperature might be too low, and so since they're cold-blooded animals or ectothermic animals, they are lethargic, so they're not so hungry. But we also feed the babies as well. It's either sardine or squid. For example, here, there it is. And we feed the 4% of their body, so they don't get fat. And yeah, currently we have 4 dark shy sharks here, and only the one leopard cat shark separated from the other because it's too small, and sometimes bigger sharks can prey on the smaller ones. Let's see if you can find another shark. There it is. The babies are always hungry. The adults sometimes are, but now they're starting to. Yeah, they were sleeping because these sharks are mainly active at dawn and dusk because they are not top predators as the great white shark or the mako shark. They have a lower trophic level, so they have a lot of predators. Other sharks, for example, the 7-gill shark or the great white, not really the great white, but the 7-gill shark is a predator of these sharks, and the main predator are the Cape Cod seals. So even if, when we go out at sea, we need to be aware that there are no seals around. Otherwise, if we hook a shark, since seals are very clever, this might get the shark and eat. So never happened, but it might happen. And yeah, okay. Let's see if we can keep another one. That one. Okay.
Where is the legend coming from that we refer to the shark's eggs as the mermaid's purse?
I don't know. Probably all these legends are back when the first scientific expeditions were carried out, so in the 800s, 700s. So probably some people got them and said, this might be a mermaid purse, because it kind of looks like it's hollow inside. So it kind of reminds of a purse. So they just associated it with the mermaid. But I actually don't know. This is what I suppose.
Okay. Anybody from the class that now can come up and start questions to Paolo?
I wanted to ask, how can we get involved from here all the way to Bloemfontein in your course?
So how to be involved here at Shark Conservancy?
Volunteer internship.
Yeah. So the Shark Conservancy has the section that involves interns and volunteers, that is called Shark Academy. So there are either volunteers that stay maximum 4 weeks a month, and then there's the internship program that can also be used if of course the university degree has an internship to be done before graduating, and the internship can last up to 3 months. And basically, just check on the website, the sharkconservancy.org, and there are forms to be filled, and then you just choose the date and you can join us.
Thank you. Yeah. Next student, but I'm just take off your mask when you're asking me a question, otherwise they don't hear properly, and I mean it's up and we're fine. Okay.
And you can ask more than one per person.
Hi. I was just wondering, from what distance can sharks like smell or detect blood?
It depends really on the species, because different sharks have different methods to prey. So for example, the great white sharks, or those very fast sharks, rely more on the sight, so on the eye, rather than other senses. While, for example, the hammerhead shark relies on the smell, and I actually know for the species, but they smell up to 1 kilometer, I think is the distance. But also sharks, rays, and skates and chimeras have the sixth sense that are called the ampullo florenzini, and all sharks heavily rely on this. So basically the snout is covered by gel-filled sacs that with specialized cells that are able to detect the changes in the electric field that is produced either by inanimate objects, but also by the muscle that contracts. So, for example, hammerhead sharks are like, they have this big head full of this ampulla of Lorenzini to easily detect buried fish, so soles, flounders, but also other skates and rays that are buried in the sand. So you can't really see them, you can't even smell them because the sand covers the smell. But thanks to this, they are able to detect the heartbeat of these species, and even if they can't see them, they can catch them. So smell is used, but also other senses are involved.
I was wondering, as an organization, which conservation methods are you guys performing, and of those, which ones are proving to be the most successful?
So first of all, we collaborate with governmental organizations. So we collect all the data on the movement, on the abundance with the stereographs, not stereographs, with the graphs in general. And with this data, we either publish papers, scientific papers on scientific journals that are the most effective way to show your results to the scientific community. But then also we collaborate with, for example, WWF, Cape Nature, and other governmental organizations to write reports and then spread our results to the public, not only to the scientific community.
Thank you.
Hello.
Speak up.
I just want to know, what role do sharks play in the ecosystem?
Okay, so sharks are mainly, so they stay in the high trophic levels of the food chain. So they're basically regulate all the fish, not fish, but all the species that are below them. So, for example, they prey on eel, fish, or very old. So, first of all, they remove all the bad genes from the fish population. So, to have a better gene pool for those for the prey. But also, if you think about that, they control the food chain because without sharks, then there could be trophic cascades. So if there are no more sharks, it means an explosion in numbers of the trophic level below that will prey more on their prey items. So one level would be depleted, and so that level would be depleted, the level below would explode. And this is the main cause of eutrophication. So explosion, algal blooms that can cause diseases also for humans. So it's not just a problem of the ecosystem, the marine environment, but it's also a human problem because algal blooms, for example, can release toxins in the air and can affect our health.
Thank you.
Hola. How's it? My question is about great white sharks. There have been reports and I've seen documents whereby killer whales are reportedly seen eating the great white sharks, specifically their livers. Also, a few years ago, there was a population of orcas seen in Cape Town, which is normally the territory of great white shark. However, they were no longer inside, suggesting that they might have fled. My question is, which one is an apex predator between the two? And also, why are the orcas are specifically targeting the livers of great white sharks?
So the problem of orcas preying on shark is very recent. So the orcas are divided into different, say, types. There are the resident species, the resident pods that just prey on small fish, and then there are the migrant killer whales that migrate and prey on sharks, seals, marine mammals. So after finding several 70 sharks dead with their belly open without the liver and finding tooth markings on those sharks, they supposed researchers suggested that the killer whales were preying on sharks, but not the resident ones, but the migrant one. And they spotted two individuals called port and starboard because their dorsal fin was leaning on the right side, that were migrant species and most probably kicked out of their pods. So these killer whales, there are just two of them, but they might reproduce with the resident killer whales, and so maybe the offspring of these can prey on sharks. So these killer whales basically grab one side of the shark, the other one grabs the other one, they pull, they open the shark, and then they suck the liver out. They discard the rest because the liver of sharks is high in oils and other important food. It's an important food source because it's rich in oil and fat. And so it's the best part of the shark that these killer whales want. And they noticed here in Hansby, on the other side of the bay, there are a lot of great white shark researchers. They noticed that when the killer whales are around, the great white sharks usually go somewhere else. And so this might be a problem for them because they heavily rely on the tourism related to the shark cage diving. And so these two killer whales are a problem for them. But luckily, it's just two of them for now.
So basically, the killer whales are the apex predators. They defeat sharks.
Killer whales are considered to be the apex predator, the best apex predator, because nothing preys on killer whales. They are too clever and too big and too aggressive on other species. So yeah, killer whales are the absolute top predator. But of course, when the killer whales are, where there are no killer whales, the apex predator would be something else. Of course, if there is a great white shark, that will be the apex predator, but again, depends on the ecosystem and on the ecoregion you are considering. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask you a question regarding the differences in shark species, like the physiological as well as physical differences amongst them. So what I would like to ask that, did the shark evolve to be different, like because like they evolved in different oceans of the world, or like they evolved to be different just because of what do I call random mutation in just group of sharks, like certain populations? Basically, my question is that.
Yeah, so sharks actually evolved a long time ago. I think 400, 500 million years ago, when there was the so-called fish explosion. So the oceans has been populated by fish species. So a lot of prey, preys and sharks developed to be predators of fish. And then, of course, the competition between different species made them to separate in different species. So this is a matter of evolution and natural selection. If there's an apex predator there, another shark will adapt to be, for example, more benthic, like the cat sharks. But what sharks have in common is that they're all predators. There aren't herbivorous sharks. So let's say that the ancestor of all sharks was carnivorous, and then they adapted to different prey items basing on the environment and on the pressure and competition with other species.
Oh, okay. Like, okay, let me ask you another question.
Yes.
For example, let's say after you've catched a shark, like a bigger shark, how do you ensure that it does not suffocate? Because like they do not have lungs. So like, how do you ensure like it doesn't suffocate a bigger shark when you've catched it?
Can you repeat the question?
Well, I'm asking like, let's say, for example, you happen to catch a big shark, like a bigger one. How do you ensure that it does not suffocate, as they do not have lungs to breathe?
So they can stay for a short periods of time out of the water, just the time needed for us to tag them and put them back in the water. Also, they breathe with gills, so as long as the gills are wet and they don't dry, then the shark can stay out for even, depending on the species, again, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There's a shark in Australia, there's a small cat shark that can stay out of the water for 1 hour, living in tidal pools like that. So when there's low tide, it can stay even 1 hour outside. They just close the gill, reduce their metabolism, and they can stay even 1 hour. So, and for us, it takes 5 minutes at most to tag a shark, even a big shark. So the mortality for, let's say, suffocation is very low when, like, research, speaking of our research, while other recreational fishermen, maybe they catch a shark, they just keep it outside of the water. And of course, in that case, the shark will have severe impairments of their respiratory system.
Oh, okay, final question.
Yes.
Now, I would like to ask a question. Oh, what is it again? Oh, yeah. Like, I've learned that the sharks, they kind of lack what you might call a swim bladder. Yeah, they lack a swim bladder. So, like, there's this thing that has been befuddling me regarding them. Like, how do they manage to maintain buoyancy, like to be able to you know, to swim and not to be bottom dwellers? So that's my question. Like, how do they manage?
Yeah, so sharks have a very big liver. It can occupy most of their body volume. And this liver is full of oil and fat, and especially a molecule called squalene that is that has a density that is lower than the one of water. So they use that to maintain buoyancy. So basically the liver keeps them floating so they don't sink down to the bottom. And of course, thanks to by swimming, they can regulate where to stay in the water column. So these bottom dweller shark that we have, the cat sharks, prefer to stay at the bottom, so they have a lower content of oils in their liver, while, for example, the big great white shark and mako shark, they have a bigger liver full of oils, full of squalene that keep them afloat.
I have two questions for you. What is tonic immobility and how does it work?
So, a tonic immobility works basically when you flip upside down a shark, it goes in a sort of stasis. Basically, they can't swim anymore because there are, it has to do with their geomagnetic perception. So their ear, when they're flipped upside down, can't really give stimuli to the brain. And so they just in this immobility. And that's what those killer whales, to keep on talking about killer whales, do. They flip the shark upside down, so the shark stays still, and then they open it and eat the liver. So,
okay, thank you for the first question. How do sharks navigate? For instance, the great white shark navigating from Australia to South Africa.
Yeah, they use currents. Mainly, they use mainly the water temperature and the global currents, because the circulation system is global, and so by using these currents, they are managed to move from Australia, for example, to South Africa. But a recent study of 2021, this year, showed that some sharks can also navigate using the magnetic field of the Earth. So these sharks were bonnethead. They are closely related to hammerhead. And so these sharks were able to use the magnetic field of the Earth to navigate, and so they can use these as a way to move around the ocean.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Tracking the evolution of sharks from years ago up until now, and the adaptations in physical features like fins. Do you think that sharks are going to evolve, or is it possible for them to evolve to terrestrial environment?
To what? I lost the last part. I missed the last part.
Do you think it's possible for sharks to evolve to terrestrial environment?
So, as I mentioned before, there is this shark in Australia that is actually very cool. This shark not only can live 1 hour, up to 1 hour outside of the water, but he also developed an articulation in the pelvic fins and in the pectoral fins. So if you look at the videos on YouTube, you can find these videos on YouTube. You see these sharks walking on land like a salamander. And then so they can walk on land, hold their breath for 1 hour and then find water. So maybe, who knows, maybe in millions of years, this shark can actually go on land. This is an important step in evolution for them. But of course, I don't think like a great white shark can develop terrestrial habits. But of course, for sure, this shark is a species that shows a certain degree of adaptation to terrestrial living on Earth.
Next.
Good day. Hello. My question is, what methods of communication do sharks use?
To communicate with the same species?
Yes, with other sharks.
With other sharks. So they mainly use the body. So they use the body movement to communicate with other individuals. And these are things that also we can also use for shark-human interaction. For example, divers, you see a shark moving slowly and straight, then is calm, is not stressed. But when it starts bending or moving faster with more, let's say, less fluid movement, then it's stressed and it might attack. And of course, for individuals of the same species, this movement of the body and body language is, of course, easier to detect. And so they mainly use the body. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to know, is it fact or fiction if you punch a shark on its nose to leave you alone?
So if a shark is attacking you, not punch on the nose, but you can rub the nose, because they have those ampulla Florenzini, so you just give electric stimuli and they feel disoriented. But they also say punch them on the gills, but I won't punch a great white shark on the gills. I mean, I will.
Stay out of the water.
So I mainly have two questions, but the first one is a little bit more specific. It's to say, in South Africa, which sharks are the most threatened, and what exactly is it that's happening in South Africa that's making them so threatened in South Africa specifically?
And so the first one is not a shark. The most threatened cartilaginous fish is it's called a wedge fish. Is related to skates. It is still a cartilaginous fish as sharks, and this fish is critically endangered. There are very few sightings every year, only one a year. And also the sawfish, especially in the KwaZulu-Natal province, there are sawfish and they are heavily impacted by human activities. Talking about shark, I don't really know, but for sure the hammerhead sharks are highly impacted, and also the soup fin sharks. So for the sharks, the main impact is overfishing. So fishing vessels catching them both directly or indirectly. So there are 16 different fisheries, and sharks can be caught both by, for example, nets or bottom trawlers that are used for shrimps or sardines. But there are also direct fisheries. So fishing vessels going out at sea are targeting sharks, because even in South Africa, if you go to a fish and chips restaurant and they say ocean fillet or lemon fish, that's not a normal fish, it's a shark. So they just don't tell you that it's a shark, but it's actually a shark. So, and also, I don't know if it's true, but in the KwaZulu-Natal, there's the shark biltong. They told me that there's the shark biltong.
In Ganspoort.
In Ganspoort as well. So yeah, both caught by as a mistake. So there is the bycatch and also targeted.
Okay, my last question is much more on a lighter note. Do sharks sleep?
Oh, okay. Sharks take naps.
They nap.
They nap. So especially these the small cat sharks, they stay on the bottom and rest for 5-10 minutes every now and then. But since they are ectotherm, so they're cold-blooded, they don't have the need to sleep a lot. So they have very low metabolism. So they don't actually need to sleep. Just a 5-minute nap a day is fine for them.
Power nap.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, where do the most dangerous sharks live?
So, first of all, there are not dangerous sharks. There are like the more aggressive ones. But so the three most aggressive ones are the great white sharks, so in South Africa, the tiger shark, that is in South Africa as well, and the bull shark. The bull shark is actually something that is actually the most aggressive because it can live in fresh water, so in rivers. And since the water there is turbid and the visibility is very low, they may make mistake and so grab your leg, but thinking you're a fish, but actually you're not. But since they are very big sharks, they might potentially kill you. But yeah, sharks don't feed on humans. If they attack a human, it's just a mistake, especially made by juveniles, because by not having hands, they use the mouth to try different things. But the mouth of a great white shark is pretty big, so can hurt a human. But yeah, those are the three main species.
No, another question.
Why did they not evolve bones in the skeleton?
So this is because the cartilage is more flexible, and actually they don't need to evolve bone, as we know. So they have cartilage, is more flexible, and it's very useful for swimming. So for fast swimming species as sharks. Yeah, and they don't need, there's not a pressure, external pressure for them to evolve a bone.
What is the biggest shark?
The whale shark. It can reach 17 meters.
So I just want to know, do you guys do any research on the migratory patterns of the bigger sharks around the coast? Specifically like the sand tigers, the ragged-tooth sharks, especially where they're breeding now, like at Aliwal North, Hermanus, things like that.
So we mainly focus on the cat sharks, but of course, when we go out at sea, here in Hermanus, there are not a lot of ragged-tooth sharks. There are more the 7-gill shark that can reach 3 meters in length, so it's pretty big. But still, when we do the underwater videos, we might see ragged-tooth shark, and so we don't. Our focus are not mainly the big sharks, so mainly these small sharks that are easy to catch, and there's a lot of data missing on these small sharks because people mainly focus on the big sharks because of course they're cooler and sort of ignore these small endemic species that are actually very important for the ecosystem.
Okay, and one last question. Can you explain the defense system of the shy shark and like how it actually got its name? What happens if you actually like scuba diving, too close, they tend to.
They're called shy sharks because when they feel threatened, they curl up, they cover their eyes with the tail, sort of a donut. And I think that they do that because for a predator is more difficult to detect the head. Usually predators aim for the head because it's once the head is cut, then it's game over. So by curling as a donut, for the predator is more difficult to go for the head. So they might survive. So it's higher chance of survival.
Cool, thanks.
Anybody else, Bailey? You?
I'm just interested, how often do you guys go out and catch sharks, and about how many sharks do you tag per year?
So it really depends on the water conditions. Of course, if the swell is too big, then we are forced to stay behind our laptops. But let's say we try to go 3 times, 4 times a week, either snorkeling or on the boat. And again, the number of sharks depends on the environmental condition and also on the migration, especially for the bigger sharks. So there are periods of the year when you catch 1 shark in 6 hours out at sea. But for example, I went out at sea and caught 9 sharks of 1.5 meters. So it's pretty.
And then, have you noticed any difference between the behavior of a shark that's been with you guys that you've reintroduced into the wild, if you can look at the behavior compared to one that was like born in the wild or hatched in the wild?
So it's very difficult to monitor the species when they are released because the recapture rate is very low. But you can tell even when they are in the tank, they have different personalities, different behavior. For example, sometimes we catch a leopard shark out here in front of the lab. We have the tag, so we know that it's that shark. Then we release it, and after 2 days we catch it again and again and again and again and again. Well, other you just tag once and you won't catch them anymore. So it's very difficult to observe the behavior.
Final question, is there any specific method that you follow to reintroduce them back into the wild? Like, is there a procedure or just put them back in the water?
So the sharks that we keep here in the tanks are all caught right outside of the lab. So we just put them in a bucket or in a crate. We go out and we just slowly put them back in the water, and we just swim.
Paolo, how far in the Hermanus area are you actually then covering? Can you go to Cape Town? What is the stretch of the ocean that you guys actually cover?
Yeah, so since there are a lot of shark research companies, for example, in False Bay, there are shark spotters, and in Hans Bay, there are the great white shark researchers. We cover mainly the Hermanus area and the Betty's Bay area and the marine protected area of Betty's Bay as well. So we have this, this area is our main focus.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the floor that has a question or a comment? Okay, then I just also want to know, what is your opinion on shark diving and the cage diving with the tourist industry?
Okay, it very depends. Regarding the cage diving, depends on the company, on the operators. So, for example, the important thing is that the shark is not fed, so you can attract them with chum or with bait. But the important thing is not to feed them. Otherwise, these sharks will associate vessels, so humans, with food, and this is bad, especially because the majority of vessels out at sea are fishing vessels. So they will get closer. Maybe there is a long line and they will get caught. So for cage diving, this is the main issue. So the operator must be aware, not feeding the sharks, to not make them used to the presence of human and associate human with food.
Okay. Thank you, Johan and Paolo, and thank you for the second year students. I think it was a little bit of a different practical today. We will see how much more we can explore on this. So Lindy, do you have anything else for your students? Thank you, Johan.
Thank you. It was great, Liesel. Thank you for your questions. You asked fantastic questions.
Yeah.